Hello, dear friends. We're beginning our next program in the series Secrets of the Eternal Book, and with us in the studio again is the renowned Kabbalist Dr. Michael Lightman. Bereshit, show number 2. So, let's move on. And God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark seasons and days and years." Meaning that there's one light, one desire to give, to fill, and to love from the Creator's side. And it's divided into many different properties, characteristics, attributes, phenomena. Therefore, we look at it from different aspects. A mother loves her child, but sometimes she's a bit strict. Sometimes she spoils him. Sometimes she's soft. Sometimes she's harsh. From different aspects. Meaning, it doesn't depend on the mother, how she is. It depends on the qualities of the child. What qualities in her child would she like to bring into order, to elevate these, suppress those, and therefore she, with her unchanging love in relation to him, manifests herself differently. So the upper light that comes from the Creator is revealed differently toward the created being, and therefore instead of the one big light, there are these illuminations. So a mom always loves her child, one way or another, but we feel on ourselves very big changes in terms of how the Creator treats us. Our entire history is the Creator's attitude towards us. Were we to rise to a level where we reveal Him, we'd see that He's good and benevolent, completely loving, and we'd feel differently. But since He's hidden from us, this is the source of all of our problems. Today, humanity feels that it is suffering and evermore. It's on purpose in order to force us to reveal Him. The greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night and the stars. And God set these lights in the sky to illuminate the earth, to shine on the created desire, meaning. Yeah. So it shines on our desire to receive, in order to develop it. It's not just simply so, to stand one opposite the other, but through different aspects of its influence on the desire, to make it multifaceted from different angles with different qualities, such as mercy, cruelty, kindness, concealment, disclosure, and so on. And as a result of this, various reactions surface in the desire, and the desire, in accordance with this, develops. It begins to evolve. How does a baby develop? If we put him in a place where he would absolutely feel no influence upon him from the outside, he wouldn't develop. Therefore, we give him all sorts of images, pictures, music, we make him move and so on. Why? Because by influencing him by all possible means and methods, we provoke his diversified development. All of these illuminations, each of which shines differently, and there are only 6 of them. They're called Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, or Sfirot. Sfira comes from the word luminous. So these 6 lights shining on the earth, on the desire to receive, meaning, develop this desire and make it a complex, multifaceted, multi-layered structure. And then when the earth receives these lights, desires, meaning all sorts of their different impacts, it inevitably begins to change. All sorts of changes occur in it. And then sprouts begin appearing out of the earth. Then animal life. And then it says, they rule over the day and over the night. What does that mean? And not to separate the light from the darkness. Right. It means that these 6 light sources don't merely affect the desire, but by their changing lights, by their specific impacts in particular sequences, they cause certain reactions in this desire, and this desire begins to understand what is good and what is bad, what is called the light, what is called darkness. This desire needs to be programmed like a computer. It understands nothing. All this data needs to be put in it, and these lights shining on this desire cause in it all sorts of, they sort of fill its memory. These impacts are called reshimot in Hebrew. Reshimot comes from the word record. They record data, all possible informational digits and inputs onto the desire. And then based on this data, the desire begins to understand like a child. Based on the previous data, he begins to explore the world further and further. So these 6 lights, these 6 spheres, sphirot, shining on the desire, adapt the desire to themselves. They program it for themselves. And this desire, according to them, according to their illumination, begins to determine what's good and what's bad. And that's called education. This is day and night? Yes. And then this desire determines what day and what night is in accordance with what was determined in it by the light. So it's like a standard, right? Yeah. It's like we tell a child, this is good, this isn't, and so on. And this stays programmed in him. So let's put it this way. The light, without the illumination, its illumination, I can't say what's good and what's bad. No, there's no way that you can do it. And this illumination is absolute love and absolute bestowal that shines upon us and programs us this way. And this refers to the Kabbalist, a grown man that gradually comes to this 4th stage of his development that's called the 4th day of creation, the 4th phase. As we have already said, each phase consists of the day and night. After the night, which is the inability to understand what is happening inside of him, all sorts of light work on him. And as a result of his work, he comes to the understanding of what good and what bad is. And through this, the 4th day is completed. What we're talking about here is a certain entity that analyzes itself, defines good and evil, and in what direction he should move. Here, he's like a flower, like a plant that aspires for the sun, absorbing good and emitting bad. That is, he's moving towards the light, towards the good. He already carries these definitions of good and evil, and therefore, to a certain degree, he's able of developing by himself, and therefore when a Kabbalist enters this stage, he's already capable of developing on his own, but still on the vegetative level. And God said, "Let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth and the open firmament of heaven. And God created the great sea monsters and every living creature that moves, with which the waters swarm according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind, and God saw that it was good." Meaning that this desire begins acquiring various forms of seemingly independent life. It's still not fully independent. It's animalistic life, but it's already life. How are animal states different than human states? Animal states are dependent. They act according to nature, which develops them, and this way pushes them to grow further. It means that they have no free will, and on this level, a Kabbalist knows that he has no free will. He knows that he is in complete subjugation to this upper force. He himself consists of desire. This desire is affected by the upper force that's divided into 6 sphirot. It absolutely rules and controls the desire, and all of his desires begin dividing between themselves. This is called the waters swarm. With living creatures, you mean? Yes. It means that his own certain specific sensations started surfacing under the influence of the upper light. They're already conscious, but not yet free. Meaning, A reaction, a very clear reaction. It's like you influence something and you know exactly what you'll get in return. These are some animate animal desires of mine that appear. No, this speaks of the level of the attainment of the Creator and the interaction with Him. When a person completely depends that he is independent on this upper force, and this is his state of communication with the Creator, and it's like a pet with its owner. But I can already advance towards the Creator if I'm on the animate level, right? Yes, but you abide only by His laws. No free choice, like an animal. So, what I wanted to ask is it begins with water, that the living creatures begin in the water. Absolutely everything begins with water, only with water. This word represents the desire to give. It means that if a person moves towards the desire to bestow upon the Creator, generating in himself the desire to give, then he naturally develops simply out of the water. Everything comes out of the water, but also out of the earth. The earth is called the desire, and the water gives the earth the possibility to create life. Earth, in and of itself, can't produce anything. It can only absorb. But when the water merges with the earth, then there is the emergence of other desires to give, and that is what happens here. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth." At this level, a person, when advancing, begins to feel various desires surfacing in him, and each of these desires seems to be existing independently. And as a result of his development, although it's still on the animal level, he has to multiply in order to attain and move forward in direction of the Creator. Because any creature that's mentioned here, snakes, reptiles, birds, doesn't matter who and what, all these forms of life are the earth's likeness to the Creator. The earth is called the desire to receive, which obtains on itself the form of bestowal, to give, and it obtains, let's say, a form like a bird, for example, or sea animals, right, or sea animals and so on. Meaning all these desires, they're directed toward the Creator. Yes, the external form is the form of bestowal. Therefore, it has a name of a certain animal. It's not just some abstract desire, but on the inside, it's the desire to receive pleasure, but that's already directed toward bestowal. On the animate or animal level, we're moving on to the sixth day. That seems crucial. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kinds, cattle and creeping things and beasts of the earth according to its kind." And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to their kinds, and the cattle according to their kinds, and every creeping things of the earth according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. The thing is that we say that water is the source of life. So the waters in the earth that are called oceans and seas, then the water, first of all, creates all of these sea animals. And then the next phase, the change of the desire, it's such that it's not just that the desire creates something in the water by including itself in it, meaning that the inclusion of the will to bestow and the will to receive generates creation. But the earth is permeated so much by the desire to bestow, the influence of the water, that it starts generating land, earthly creatures, creatures that walk on land. Yes, but we have to explain this more clearly. Maybe it's better that we use Kabbalistic terms, and then we'll use them, and our listeners will already understand them. There is the upper quality of bestowal, water. Let's nonetheless call it Galgalta and Enaim, and the lower quality, which is the will to receive, the land, that's called Achap. So there's Galgalta Enaim and Achap. They're the upper qualities that can exist separately and the lower qualities that can exist separately, the water and the earth. The properties of the water can be included in the properties of the earth, and the properties of the earth can be included in the properties of the water. The first part I understand, where the water falls on the earth. Yeah, because a person can imagine rain and things like that. So the water falls on the earth, creating seas and oceans, and in the water appears life. But life doesn't simply appear in the water, it appears because the water is in the earth. Meaning, this upper quality, as it came down to the level of the lower property, then here it develops its forms, and that's called sea creatures. And then, as a result of the water being in the earth itself is permeated with the properties of the water. That is, the desire to receive is permeated with the properties of the Creator, the desire to give and love, and then the earth begins to generate its outcome as a result. So it's not only sea animals that appear, but also so called land animals, those that walk on land. Right. They can't disconnect themselves from the earth. Right. So it's the integration of Galgalta and Naim and Achap in Galgalta and Naim. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So, first of all, let's make man in our image. What image does the Creator have? The desire to give. So that's what it's about, right? This is how we have to create him. So we're not talking about any external shape or form or anything. Of course not. We're only talking about the force of reception and the force of bestowal and the combinations between them and how the one force equalizes with the other. We're talking about a Kabbalist who, in his physical body, lives in this world and begins to attain these world. And he attains it by acquiring these forces inside of him. He starts understanding, and this man starts forming in him. And all these qualities that he discovers inside himself, the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, now he's on the sixth level of the revelation of the Creator, of the upper force inside himself, as we said. And like any other pictures of the surrounding world, we feel them inside ourselves, and this we feel inside ourselves too by developing ourselves and becoming like the Creator. On that level, he becomes like the Creator on the level of man. He feels the Creator inside himself? Of course. But now he feels it on the level of man. And this means that he is creating the human level inside himself. So previously he felt the Creator on the level of sea creatures and so on. He had a very simple, primitive desire. This is what he started out with and gradually developed in the direction of love and bestowal. And gradually it, to some extent, became like the Creator in the form of sea creatures, land creatures, plants, etc. And now he's achieved such a personal desire of his own that is already an equivalence of form with the Creator in the form of man. And man, Adam in Hebrew, comes from the word to be similar to the Creator. So it's the first time where there's similarity between the researcher, the Kabbalist, and the Creator. And this is a very serious degree. And therefore, it actually symbolizes the last degree of development, after which there's nothing, because they're the 6 days of creation, and these 6 days, suddenly, they're like as if tragically abrupted. There's like a desire to stop here. No, man was only created. He didn't make anything out of himself yet. He only came to the revelation that there's myself and the Creator. And now what? Where, in this revelation of mine, is my personal participation? Does it or doesn't it exist? And even though that a person seriously works on himself and he inquires and he changes himself, but only now, he came to the point where he can really start freely, acting like the Creator. And this is why he is called man, Adam in Hebrew. Before that, all of his actions were not free. Only now has he reached the level of the Creator, becoming like him, meaning he starts seeing the whole of creation with all the different phases of its development, from beginning to its end, absolutely all the souls, animals, worlds, etc. Meaning he starts looking at everything from the Creator's point of view. And God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them, and God blessed them. Meaning that two properties exist in man at the same time, the feminine property to receive and a male property to give, and these two qualities seemingly exist in man in contradiction, in opposition to one another. And God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish, over the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." And God said, "I have given you every plant yielding seed which is upon the face of all the earth." Here you have an interesting paradox. Plants in spirituality are more advanced than animals. Why is that? Because plants grow out of the earth. They suck all the minerals and all their qualities from the earth, while animals are born on the earth, meaning that on the one hand, animals are more developed, more sophisticated, more complex in their structure, and therefore closer to man. On the other hand, there's something special about plants because they exactly consist of the combination of the qualities of earth and water and air and their aspiration for sun and so forth. And when did we start talking about plants? Just now. It's amazing, really. And man is likened not to a monkey or a cow or a dog or any other animal, but to a tree. So I was thinking all the time, why did we skip over plants? And here it is. Because a plant, a tree, is rooted in the earth, and its crown, which is similar to the root, aspire towards the sky. That is, it combines in itself these two forces, and therefore man is compared to a tree. So when you say plant, what is that in relation to man, inside a person? What is that? First of all, it's growth, it's development. He takes from the ground, from his desires, the most essential for his growth. Can we say that these are our egoistic desires? Yes, the earth is the egoistic desire to receive. You take out of them everything that you can in order to spiritually grow toward the sky. This is a plant, and for this you need some water, obviously. There have to be certain conditions: water, air, sun, and the water should be in moderation. Yes, there are many conditions in order for a grain or a seed to develop into a sprout and a tree. And there was evening and there was morning, a sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God finished his work which he has done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because on it God rested from all his work which he had done in creation. So actually, the Creator, on his part, he finished everything. This is what we need to know. There are the 6 days of creation, during which the light, the desire to bestow, to love, the positive bestowal, influence from the Creator has created the will to receive, inflated it with its qualities, awoke certain reactions in it, and as a result, everything that the Creator wanted to convey, he did. And in that, he has as if completed his work and rested. Meaning, on his part, he finished all the work completely. Meaning, in relation to the Creator, from his point of view, creation is in wholeness and perfection. He tells creation, I did my part, from here on, you're on your own. He doesn't even say it. In this state, man, creation, is in its whole and corrected state, and what happens from here on is man's free choice. So, I've created these 6 steps, degrees, he tells man, and your role is now to ascend. I gave you a ladder, and now, if you want, you can ascend. If you don't, I don't know if there is any other desire. No, there is no other desire or possibility. When a person discovers this upper path for himself, then at that point he can't stop. He sees the cause and effect of the system, of his self-development, and for him to stop now is like to die instantly. It's like to disappear, meaning no one can escape ascending to the Creator. No one can. No created being, including the still, vegetative, animate, and human degree or nature of our world, will all have to rise to his level, and this ascent has to occur now, within the few upcoming years. So this is a record that exists in every person? Of course, because we all descended from that state to the level of our world, and from our world, we have to ascend back. So what we talked about is about this way laid from the Creator to the created beings, through which they have to ascend back to Him, and man has to go through all of these degrees. He has to roll up this path behind him. Yep. Then the Lord God formed man of dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. Meaning consisting of 2 forces, the force of giving and the force of reception, that exist in him at the same time. And what is man? Man is that structure that exists between these 2 forces. Both the desire to receive and the will to bestow, they both come from the Creator. The will to bestow is his, the will to receive is like an imprint, a copy of the will to bestow. And these 2 forces exist inside us, and so man exists of 2 forces, as if positive and negative, and this comes from above, meaning none of our qualities that exist in us to begin with, they're not ours. We got them from the Creator. So man shouldn't reproach himself for seemingly having the most unpleasant inclinations, tensions, motivations, and so on. All these are not his. It all comes from the Creator. But being between these positive and negative qualities, to scrutinize what is the positive and what is the negative, meaning what's light and what's the shadow, to separate them like day and night and position himself between them, and to develop with the help of these 2 qualities, but to develop by correctly using them, this is what the freedom of choice is all about and man's complete realization. So he doesn't simply move toward the light, but he also uses the shadow. He's obliged to use both of these qualities in order to advance toward the light. It's like 2 reins on the horse, otherwise he won't be able to control himself. So you can't tell a person that he's bad. By no means, and not to anyone, because these aren't his qualities. And a person can't say that to himself. Of course not. Not about these initial qualities, but about those qualities that he did not acquire on time as a result of correctly using these 2 qualities given by the Creator. He had the conditions to do it, but he didn't. And here, he's at fault. It is in his ability. This is his freedom of choice. Dr. Lightman, thank you very much. Unfortunately, our time's up again. We have to end our show. But I hope that our viewers are already starting to better and better understand how to correctly read this eternal book. Dear friends, we want to thank you for being with us on our 2nd show. We wish you all the best. Send us your questions. We'll gladly discuss them. And we wish you new attainments and sensations while reading this great book, the Pentateuch. Until next time, all the best.